Hey guys, it's Miss Allison. I hope you're having a fantastic day. So we are now starting our next unit of study. We are reading the memoir Night by Elie Wiesel. If you don't have a book, that's okay. We have a digital copy for you. But to get ready for this unit, there's just a few things you need to know that's a little bit different than what we've done before, okay? This is an extremely powerful story. It's an extremely impactful story. It's one that I think you will get a whole lot out of. It is required reading in 8th grade in PSD. There's just a few things you need to know as we enter in to be ready, okay? So the first thing is, as we're looking at this, we're going to approach it with a different tone than we usually do in class. This is a story unlike anyone we have studied before, and probably that you've studied in middle school. It's just a very different thing. It is the true account of someone who survived a concentration camp during the Holocaust during World War II. So given that, there's some specifics we'll talk about in a moment, but just given that idea, this takes just a different energy coming in, okay? So in class, you may notice we have a little bit of a different tone. You know that I love to have fun and we laugh and all these fun things, make memes and all that. And I'm not saying that we can't have fun, but you'll notice that when you're starting to read the story, it takes a different energy. It takes a different type of concentration from you. And so I want to make sure that we're honoring that and we're really approaching this with respect. What can this teach me? We're just going to open our minds to it. What can it teach me? Okay? So if you're like, man, what's going on? Just know that we're trying to respect the story, work through it together, and we will do a great job of that. All right? So here are some specifics that I would like you to be aware of as we're coming in and ready to study this story before you start reading. Okay? So just some things you need to know. So in this unit, here's a couple things that we're going to see. We do have to talk about World War II. We'll talk about the Nazis and concentration camps. We'll talk about Hitler. All of those things that we talk about are factual. Everything that we are studying comes from credible sources. We are going to stick to the facts, all right? So I know that sometimes some of those words can bring up some emotions in us. The purpose of this is we need to know what happened in order to understand the story that we're reading, all right? So we're going to stick to the facts with that, use credible sources. There is mention of religion and questioning of faith. The person who wrote the memoir, our main character, is Jewish, and so you will get to see his struggle as he is going through the concentration camp, just questioning bigger things in his life. With this mention of faith, it is in no way meant to impression you or tell you how to live your life. It's just part of his story. All right, so again, we're going to stick to the facts there. We don't need to interpret or really read into those things as much. There are very graphic descriptions of death in this story. That's just the nature and the reality of the subject that we are studying. They are difficult to read. I'm going to be completely honest with you on that, okay? I want to be so sensitive to what's going on in your world, in your life, all right? I know that this is a tough time for everyone. We've been through a lot. So as you're reading, if any of these things, but especially when we're getting to things about like description of death, if it's striking a chord with you, it's not sitting right, it's uncomfortable, please let me know. I want to be able to help you and coach you, and we can figure out either a way around it or through it just based on what you're going through, okay? So please know it is tough. I'm going to be honest about that. It's tough for me. I've read this many times and it's still hard, okay? So don't feel wrong if that's happening. We will find a way to get through it together or work around it, all right? Same thing here, dehumanization. There are some really, really difficult things to even fathom or imagine. It goes back to that power of story. There is purpose behind it, but there may be some things that are just like, man, that's really hard to read, and I respect that. So let me know if you're struggling. I would love to help you, okay? And just know that there's some graphic images and imagery. The imagery was within the book, and then we do study a few things beforehand just to get some context that you may find a little bit startling or a little bit graphic. So the disclaimer there is if any of these things are causing you any sort of emotional turmoil or discomfort, or you're just not doing well with it, let me know. I am here to support you, and I care about your success, and I know that there's a way that we can get through this together. I don't want you to just sit uncomfortable alone in this, okay? Let's talk about our purpose. So now that I've given you like all the details about what's to come, why are we reading this book? We talked about how it's a very powerful story, so that's going to be a huge part of it. We want to understand the power of memoir. That's a genre that we study in 8th grade, and PSD has chosen this story for you to study that way. We want to understand this specific story. Again, there's a lot of power in this one, and so we'll see that, and it ties well into what you've learned in your history course as well. And then finally, to understand resilience, we've been studying that a whole lot in our essay unit, and we're going to think about how this serves our narrator, our author really well, and within the context of memoir. All right, so guys, those are the things that we need to know coming in. Please communicate with me. Please be open about what's going on with you. I think you're going to get a whole lot out of this story. It's going to be one that I think is really impactful, but I also recognize it's a tough one. So just let me know what's going on and how I can support you. Thanks, guys.